So, a fun little fact if you follow us on Twitter at Giants Brawl, the last time the New York Giants selected a linebacker in the top 5 was when they selected Carl Banks in like 1984 or something. And then Lawrence Taylor like in the 80s as well. And Mike probably remembers that. I'm the jerk for making him feel like super old. But what's going on, guys? Welcome into another edition of the Giants Brawl podcast brought to you by the Brawl Network. As always, I'm your host for this evening, Usaid Koshal. We got your experts in the house as always. They're the ones that make this show possible. I pretty much don't do anything besides show up and talk Giants. Got Mike Trainer in the house. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike Trainer MFT. Go ahead and shoot Anthony Rivardo a follow on Twitter too at Anthony_Rivardo. We were talking before the podcast started, before we started recording this thing. These guys are bored. I'm bored too, which is why we're here. We're your one-stop shop for anything and everything Giants. We're literally taking all the information that you get from like 30 different sources and just putting into one podcast. Isn't that right, guys?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so
Let's
what's up?
Let's get it.
We're we're hyped, dude. Surprisingly, today in Illinois has been like a freaking decent day for quarantine. I was on my old phone earlier. I found the screenshot. So I joined Twitter like 4 years ago, right? I found the screenshot, dude, of Ariana Grande like blocking me. So I got that going for me. I've been laughing about that all day.
Why did she block you? What did you do?
Oh, okay. So all those like sometimes, dude, like on Twitter, you'll like the randomest like burner accounts will like tag you in a tweet and it's just blowing your mentions up. And then you get like super annoyed and you're like, yo, F this. Like, I'm either going to just mute this entire thread or go in. So me being who I was at the time, I was like, 19 or whatever. But so I started trashing her and I was like, yeah, she's a bitch. Her music's terrible. I don't care. And then what happened, dude, is like I woke up the next... Yeah.
Shit.
And so anyway, I woke up the next morning, dude, and I straight up said the night before I went to sleep, I was like, I really hope she blocks me because I don't care. And then boom, I got blocked. So I told one of my coworkers who's a big Ariana Grande fan the exact same story, and she was like, well, what the hell? So I don't care. She blocked me. I had nothing to do with any of this, by the way. I'm totally innocent for voicing my honest opinion about how I feel about her music.
I thought you were going to say when you woke up the next morning, I regret my actions. I apologize to her. But nope, you took definitely another route. I like it, though, man. I like it.
Yeah.
I follow like this Ariana Grande. Like she's like an impersonator on like not really an impersonator. She just loves her so much. She dresses like her and she looks identical to her, man. Like I kind of want to bang her. Like it's got like mental issues. You know what I mean? I'll retweet some shit later so you guys can see on my timeline if you follow me. But it's unbelievable, man. It's like one of those those plastic people. They have all that plastic surgery and they look like they're a plastic fucking doll. It's like, sort of like that, but she did it right. Like she didn't. I don't think she had any plastic surgery. She just kind of looks like her and did the whole makeup and shit, man. Oof. You got to take what you voice. If I can't get Ariana Grande, I might as well have the next best thing. Some crazy broad that looks like her.
Oh my god, Anthony, what are you up to, dude?
Nothing, man. I just was playing some Warzone. Got out of the gulag and then realized it's almost 9 o'clock, so I had to tell the boys, see ya, and now here I am. Just a lot of video games, man. Not much else to do. I've been watching some Better Call Saul, too. I don't know if you guys have watched that, but that's a really good show.
That's the best show on TV right there.
Right.
Dude, I need to get around to watching Tiger King because everybody's like talking about Tiger King. And I'm like, all right, I'll check this out eventually. But anyways, that's 4 minutes of just what's going on in our lives. We hope you guys and your families are doing great through the current situation. Our thoughts and prayers are always with everyone, too. So let's get into Giants football, guys, because that's why we're here. I mean, you got the Giants. They're meeting with Andrew Thomas, the offensive tackle from Georgia, who's listed as like OT 3 or 4 by a lot of people in this draft class. We've said for weeks and weeks and weeks now, it's going to be Simmons at 4 and an offensive tackle at 36. Them meeting with Thomas this week, like, I'm just like, all right, you're not really serious about this guy. You're just meeting with him because when you're picking that high in the draft, you do your homework on like every single draft prospect. Mike, I'll start with you. What do you think?
Maybe that could be like it could be either one or two things. It could be like a smoke screen to throw everybody off, saying like, "Oh, they're definitely going offensive lineman," or that could be another thing where Andrew Thomas, like you said, he's like pretty much the last rated of the top guys. Maybe he slips later in the first round, possibly towards the second round. Maybe we trade up. We do have some extra draft picks we can, use to make that happen. Maybe that's something the Giants are looking to do.
Yeah, I think that Andrew Thomas is like a perfect trade down candidate. If Dave Gettleman actually does what we don't think he will, but hope he does, and trades down, I think Andrew Thomas would be that perfect ideal pick at like 8, 9, even as far back as 12 if he's there. So I think that's probably what they're doing. They're covering all the bases on all of the offensive linemen, and they realize that if they do trade down, he's going to be their top target. So if that scenario occurs, they need to be prepared and know who they're getting in case they do trade down.
Well, it just like he's one of those he's one of those guys that makes sense for you to trade down because like we've said, this is a pretty decent offensive tackle class. And whether you're picking out like 4 or 5, 6, 7, wherever you're picking, because you're going to have that run on quarterbacks because the draft stamp 16 days away from the time that we're recording this. But the point is the fact that like there's going to be, I think you're going to see Herbert and Tua, obviously, with a lot of the different reports coming out. You don't know who's going to go first. If you were to tell me ask me 3 months ago who's going first, I would have told you Joe Burrow, number 1. This back in January, then Tua, and then Justin Herbert. But now it looks like that could be flip-flopped around. So it's going to go Burrow, then Herbert, and Tua. And that has big implications. And so the Giants, like, they could trade back, man, with, like, Miami or the Chargers and still have their pick of, like, Isaiah Simmons or an offensive tackle. So this whole Thomas thing, like, I think Mike's kind of right in the sense that it could just be a smokescreen for something bigger, or it could be something that it's like, yeah, well, we're just doing our homework on this guy because he's gonna be, we have to look into like every scenario possible.
Tua is slipping, man. I think I was saying like one of the first podcasts I was on how Tua sucks. So it looked like NFL GMs are finally getting it. And I feel sorry for Anthony. I think his dream is dying, man. It looks like the Redskins are definitely going to go Chase Young at number 2. So unfortunately, he's not slipping. Now we just got to worry about what the Lions do. If they are sneaky fucks and grab Simmons, it's going to throw everything into chaos.
I'll say it does look like the dream is dying, and I think more than anything, it's because of the virtual draft format. I think that is going to confuse a lot of NFL GMs and a lot of front offices, and I think there's going to be a lot less trading in the first round this year than there usually is, especially with a big blockbuster to get up to the number 2 spot to take a quarterback. I don't see it happening when all these, GMs have to get on their phones or their Zoom calls and try and coordinate with all these different people that they're not in the same room with and then try to make a trade via the internet. I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's going to be some trades, but not any big blockbuster ones this year. And I think that's the reason why there's no chance that Chase Young is getting past number 2 now. And I don't know if you guys saw also the Washington Redskins announced they're going to be doing a live stream party for viewing the draft or something, and they're going to have Dwayne Haskins on like the video chat. So it seems really unlikely they would invite him to that if they were planning on drafting Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, that would be pretty awkward if they did.
That would freaking
great TV.
Oh yeah.
I would die laughing just knowing like, okay, so when Haskins was coming out last year, like I was already, I mean, I was like, this dude's a mid-first rounder, right? And he went like whatever 15th overall. But the point is the fact that like I was never like high on Haskins, and he's been one of the lower like rated quarterback prospects that's definitely been overdrafted. So if this guy comes at like if you draft Tua at 2, right? If you're Washington, you're basically giving up on Haskins, and you basically spent the entire offseason BSing and saying, yeah, Haskins is kind of our guy. Even though they did say, like, well, nothing's guaranteed. Like, every new coaching regime is going to say nothing's guaranteed because they're trying to instill discipline into their players. Even though, like, they got enough tape of game on Haskins, the new offensive staff in Washington, to know, is this guy really it? And let's be real, like, Ron Rivera's, teams have always revolved around, like, a really stout defense, which Washington has, and then a game changer at quarterback. And to me, like, Dwayne does not scream game changer. I'm sorry if you got like if you're a Redskins fan and you're listening to this, thanks for the listen, because we love the numbers here and we produce quality content. But still, dude, just like Haskins just is not it, And I would argue right now, I would take like 2018 Trubisky with Matt Nagy and the new Bears offensive staff over Haskins like any day.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I would go that far, Anthony.
I mean, come to the head, like I'd probably just shoot myself.
Yeah.
What would you pick on guys?
See, I think Haskins, I don't want to be like positive about Redskins players, but I think that in the right system, he can be a good system quarterback. I don't think he's a game changer like you said, but that kind of leveling and mediocrity is why I think they really should go quarterback at number 2. You want the higher ceiling, not the higher floor. And, it's a new regime. No one really has a tie to Dwayne Haskins. I think that they should just, draft Tua, because then he's got to wait a year probably with his injury. And then you could see what you have in Haskins and then maybe trade him. I know it's more of like a progressive mindset and something PFF would argue. And I know we probably have some listeners that don't like PFF, but I would definitely do it. I think if you're going to settle for somebody whose ceiling is a solid system quarterback, I wouldn't make Dwayne Haskins that guy, especially when there is like character question marks about him with the whole dyslexic reading the playbook thing.
Well, I'll just say this overall, whoever's in this division next year starting at quarterback, because you got Glass Wentz who's starting.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Jones is going to be starting. You don't know what's going to go down with Dak Prescott in Dallas, even though they're like quote unquote talking after we recorded last week's episode. And then you have the big unknown in Washington, because we've seen crazier things happen in the NFL draft. And I'm not going to be shocked if they pull the trigger on Tua and Dwayne Haskins is there. Like, I will not be shocked. So the only surefire starter right now in this division is Danny Jones. He's still going to run the division regardless of who's playing quarterback, because I think when we were on this podcast, we've looked at the last 10 years at some points. We've looked at the last 5 years, and we've looked at the last or the next 5 years too. And I think right now the Giants are the team that's set up for success, but this virtual draft thing is going to be throwing everyone into mayhem, because you don't know what to expect. And this is not at all I saw Adam Schefter tweeted today. He was like, "Oh, this is gonna be like your fantasy football draft." And I'm like, "No, it's not gonna be like your fantasy football draft, because you're not talking to 5 or 6 people at the same time, trying to pull a trade off. You're not you don't have trade offers written on your whiteboard or something in the friggin' basement or wherever you do your fantasy draft. This is a new thing, and I think it's gonna revolutionize the draft process going forward."
I can't wait to see these guys on FaceTime. We're watching them. They're using all this technology, Zoom, and then you get a hacker in the middle of the Redskins or Cowboys or Eagles drafted a player, and they see just a big dick on the screen. How fucking funny would that be? If I knew if I was popular in the nerd community, I wish I knew nerds that could do that. I'd pay them. I'd be like, listen, whatever you guys want, you know what I mean? Just drop a dick in between these guys, or, it's something gonna do it. I know they're definitely worried about it, so it's definitely gonna happen, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, something crazy is always gonna go down. I'm bracing for when draft weekend rolls around, because I took Thursday and Friday off from work for it. I'm just bracing for it to come around, dude, because I just want to see what the hell's gonna go on, dude. Something crazy is gonna happen. And then, what the best part of it all is going to be? Something crazy is going to happen, and it's going to be when everyone least expects it the most. So everything's going to be running smoothly for 6 or 7 picks, and then 8th or 9th pick, boom, something's going to happen, and they're going to cut off the cameras or whatever and try to get things under control. And Twitter's going to be making memes out of it for the next 2 months or something.
Yeah, well, it's like fantasy football, man. It's you had that guy that screwed up, drafted in the wrong order, messed up. You have to go back, pause the draft. There's definitely going to be, something as you said, it's definitely something going to go wrong, man. Can't wait to see what it is. It's going to be the most popular draft by far. I'm telling you, everybody's going to be tuning in because there's nothing going on, and people are just waiting to see like all the nerds that don't even watch sports and just be like, all right, let's see if our hacker buddy like really does this. Hacks into this shit. It's going to be crazy. I'm telling you, the most highly rated shit we'll ever see. Thank God we're getting the draft, man. If we didn't get the draft, there'd be nothing going on.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I was like, okay, no, I was seriously thinking of this like earlier. I'm like, yo, sports got canceled a month ago. There's talk of the MLB potentially starting up in like May, but that's not going to happen because May is 3 weeks away, and there's so much that would have to go into it for it to even kick off. And then, like, you basically have the NFL draft, and that's it. And, like, this week, the NHL playoffs should have been starting. Next week, the NBA playoffs. And it's like, that's not happening. So after the draft, like, we pretty much have the draft, and that's it. And it's going to suck, dude, because you don't know when anything's coming back. But, like, moving on, you know, we've professed our love for a certain linebacker from Clemson. We've talked so much about, like, what the Giants should do, trading up, trading down scenarios. Let's talk about draft prospects to avoid, guys. And these can be like anywhere, like whether it's in the first to like the 7th round. But Anthony, who are you avoiding just in this draft in general?
There's one player that comes to mind with one pick, the 4th overall pick. If there's one player that they take, I know everyone's reaction is going to be negative, and mine especially, and it's Derek Brown. If Dave Gettleman does the unthinkable and goes defensive lineman at number 4 overall, we are all going to collectively lose our minds, and it's going to completely ruin all of the hype, the suspense that we've been, anticipating and building up for with this draft. This is supposed to be our happy moment here and towards the end of April, in the middle of our quarantine, and it will be completely ruined for me and for a lot of other fans if Dave Gettleman continues his defensive lineman fetish and takes Derek Brown.
He's not wrong, dude, but I will say this, like, so I went back and looked at, like, Dave Gettleman's drafts just from the time he was in Carolina, and I was like, okay, I will not lie, and obviously I looked at the rosters over the years, too, and some of the productive players he had, and I was like, hey, look, there are a lot of times where this team did not need to take a defensive lineman, but they took one anyway, because Dave, that's how he builds his kind of, like, he builds football teams, dude, like backward out in the sense that he's going to commit to the run game before getting to the pass, before, finding someone to get after the passer. And so really like that, he's got an odd philosophy. He's got kind of like an outside the box philosophy, which I feel like sometimes when it pays off for him, he looks like a genius. When, when it does not pay off for him, then it's like, well, what the hell, man?
I mean, I'm with Anthony in regards to, Derek Brown. I don't want to see him either, man. Unless he comes to the team and he proves us all wrong and he turns out to be the next Aaron Donald. I just don't really see that. But if I got to pick a guy, I would go like any wide receiver. I don't want to see a wide receiver get drafted at the number 4 if we trade back to 12 or 8 or whatever it is. I don't want to see a wide receiver like, CeeDee Lamb or Judy. Like, I'd lose my shit there. And then I have to turn on Gettleman, and I don't want to be that guy. I've been supporting him for so long. I don't want to be wrong.
That's what would make you turn on him. See, if they trade back and they land one of those receivers, I'm not going to be that upset about it, man. Because if you get one of those receivers plus extra picks, it's like, I don't know, that's going to be like one of the best players in the league potentially in a few years.
Dude, okay, so CD reminds me of DeAndre Hopkins. Henry Ruggs is like the next Tyreek Hill. Jerry Jeudy, he's like
Odell. He reminds me of Odell.
Like Odell or Amari Cooper, I'll be honest with you.
Amari, I see that.
I view him closer to being an Amari than I do like Odell. Just because, like, again, this is, we've seen Odell play, dude, and Odell just, like, always kind of put his times, like, he put his foot down in the offense, made his, like, mark, You felt his presence. Sometimes you did not see that. You only see that with Amari when he's got a good quarterback, which he's got one in Danny Dimes, but that's not the point. The point is that, like, Amari's not the game changer Odell is, and that's okay because we have one in Darius Slayton. I will say this, though. If you trade back and you draft a receiver, it's kind of a win-win because you are getting a game changer, but it would also be like a luxury pick. And then regards to Derek Brown, it would be stupid if you took Brown at 4 just because if you knew you were going to take Derek Brown and he was on your radar the entire time, why would you bring back Leonard Williams and pay the $15 million? And
Right.
it would make that section of the Giants fan base that's still hating on the Leonard Williams trade, despite the fact that they were so quick to judge it because they forgot that there was a third round comp pick that they were going to get for Landon Collins. It would just like piss them off even more. So
It would drive them into mayhem. There's no question.
yeah,
I'm one of them.
see, this happens every single week now. Is I take like random shots at Anthony, and then I don't realize that I'm taking random shots at him, but that's okay. But just like moving on, this when you look at the offensive line depth, guys, when you look at the offense in general, I think wide receiver is pretty solid.
Right.
Then you have running back that's set, quarterback is set, tight ends are looking good. Really, the offensive line right now is the one positional group that like I still think could use work. And I've got the depth chart up in front of me. So you've got like Nate Solder, Will Hernandez, Spencer Pulley, Kevin Zeitler, and Cam Fleming. Now I'll say this, of the 5 guys on that offensive line, really only Solder and Hernandez are the 2 locks to start next season. And like Hernandez is this is Hernandez's unit, and I'm one of those people that's long said maybe Josh Jones at 36, maybe a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry or Cesar Ruiz, have one of those guys slide in at right guard, because you need another like mean monster on this offensive line. You need someone that's willing to like kick the frigging living crap out of whatever's in front of them, and Ruiz or Cushenberry would provide that ASAP.
Oh, no question, man. They're definitely getting the center. There's no doubt. I would love Cushenberry or the other guy from Michigan. They're definitely going there. There's no question about it. But I think it all depends on their scheme too, man. If Joe Judge comes in here, gets a better scheme for the offensive line, maybe they'd be able to work together than like this past season where they shown flashes they could work together. They had good games, but then they ran into a team like Philly with that front, and they just got overwhelmed. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm happy you mentioned that, because I do think the biggest problem with the offensive line has been for the past few years Hal Hunter as the offensive line coach. I as soon as that hiring happened in 2017, I said that is awful. That's not going to pan out, and I was right, and it really didn't pan out at all. It was really bad, but now we do have Mark Colombo. I think that will pan out. I think he's a really good guy. I like his energy. I think he's done a great job as an assistant and as a full-time offensive line coach in Dallas, and if you listen to anything that the Dallas coaches have to say about him, they all love him and rave about him. So I think that it's going to be a huge improvement in that regard. I think you're going to see the offensive linemen play a lot smarter and a lot more physical, and maybe finally pick up some stunts this year. But, they do need to find some more talent on this line. I think you're going to see probably, if they don't go offensive tackle, if they go Isaiah Simmons, you're going to see probably Cameron Fleming starting at right tackle until that 36th overall pick tackle is ready to go. And I think you're going to see Nick Gates be the backup plan at every position, because he showed that he can play guard. He showed he can play right tackle. And since he showed he could play guard, we might get a chance to see him at center in the preseason. And he could end up being the starting center if they don't end up drafting one. If they draft a tackle instead in the middle rounds, then I think you look at Gates at center.
Yeah, I think they're getting both. Like I said before, I think they're getting that tackle and the center in the later rounds. But you're right, man. I think they're really banking on Colombo being that guy to change this attitude of this offensive line and play better. I mean, there's talented guys on there. Solder's not that bad. Hernandez had his moments. Kevin is a great pick, and he looks like he's going to be a star in the league. Hopefully, a star. So I think we just need better coaching, and then let's see what this guy brings before everybody panics and said, "Oh, this offensive line sucks." We put up the most points in the division last year. We got to stop somebody at some time.
Yeah, and that's why we need Isaiah Simmons, man. That's exactly why.
Yeah. So. Dude, Colombo's a really interesting case study because he was in Dallas, I think, for like 3 years as the offensive line coach. And keep in mind, like, at that time, the biggest thing that Colombo's bringing right now is just his coaching experience, which is going to help kind of a young line. Because, like, Will Hernandez is going into year 3. Nick Gates, still a bit of an unknown commodity. Cam Fleming's looking to get his career back on track. So this offensive line has a lot of unknowns right now, but they got potentially the best offensive line coach they could have gotten this offseason, because Colombo, he's worked with these guys like Zach Martin and Travis Fredericks. And keep in mind, like, the strength of Dallas is not Zeke Elliott or Dak Prescott or Jerry Jones pockets. It's always been like the offensive line, right? And Jason Garrett, this is another thing that people aren't talking about, is Garrett's work with Garrett was like basically Colombo's boss. So this is something that like everyone right now is like, yeah, this is one of the most like intriguing moves of the offseason. I seriously think Colombo, with his experience as a player and as a coach, he's going to bring some nastiness to the unit. And like, quite frankly, we need that right now, because there were times last year where this O-line was getting like zero push under Hal Hunter. And it bothered me because it was like, look, this O-line is not getting any push. And who's, getting the short end of the stick? Danny Dimes is.
And Barkley.
Yeah.
Too.
Mm.
It's like, it was unfortunate, but you're right, that continuity between him and Garrett, I think is going to pay, big dividends, especially like, I don't know what's going to happen with the practice time and the training camp. So we're going to definitely need the coaching for as limited amount of time they have around these guys.
I bet you right now, dude, Mark Colombo and Danny Dimes, right? They're like all on, whatever, FaceTime with each other. And they're like, yo, let's figure this thing out. And they got like teams are investing in like VR reality now. I bet you that teams are going to start practicing that way.
That'd be pretty interesting. I haven't heard that.
Dude, it's just, that's just something I'm throwing out there. Like, I came up with that, like, on the spot, because I know, like, some teams, like, I cover the Bears with a media credential. Whenever I get access to their headquarters, I mean, I've seen, like, they've got kind of, like, a VR room that, like, their quarterbacks use, kind of simulate. Granted, it's not the same as, like, being out there on the actual field, but it still gets the job done. That would be something I think, like, teams will look into, I mean...
All pro and shit, like,
Yeah.
Tagging each other, looking at all the plays. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, man.
Yeah, dude, it's just, I mean, with this whole situation right now, you don't know what's going to happen. You're kind of playing it day by day. But, like, tons going on over the next few weeks. For me personally, like, I'm avoiding guys like Derek Brown. I want the offensive line depth to be short up. But another guy I would want to see them kind of avoid at 36 would be Kyle Duggar from Lenore Ryan, because he's a D3 prospect. And I haven't seen, like, this much hype surrounding a D3 guy in the last couple of years. And his projections have been all over the place. And he's kind of like the hybrid defender that, Patrick Graham would want in this scheme, because he can play like that strong safety, but then you can like have him play linebacker as well. And that's just someone that, you look at and you're like, okay, the ceiling is there, but it's going to take him like 2 or 3 years to reach that ceiling. Plus, I don't want them investing in a safety at, 36 anyway.
Yeah, I don't want them to get a safety at 36 either. I see a lot of fans put that out there, and I don't know. I think our safety room is pretty solid with Julian Love and Jabril Peppers. I think that's way too early to be spending a pick there, especially we spent, 3 picks in the 2019 draft on defensive backs, plus the third-round compensatory on Sam Beal, and then I think 1 or 2 more in 2018. Like, we've put a lot of capital into the secondary, and I don't think we need to put another second-round pick into it. But, the same thing being said, one of those 4th, 5th, 7th round picks, if you can package 1 or 2 of those together and send those over to the Vikings for Anthony Harris, that I'm game for. And then you move Julian Love back into the slot. That's something I'm pushing really hard for. I know the Giants are interested in making it happen, but the Vikings' price right now is like a little bit out of reach. But I have a feeling that they're going to get that sorted out, because that sounds like a perfect match.
I wouldn't mind. I'd like to see Julian Love, like, either say, like you said, go to the slot, but I kind of want to see him, like, in that safety position, because he did play pretty well, man. If he, becomes that guy next to Peppers, as that cover guy, and like that'll be like a bonus for us, man. But we definitely need depth there, regardless. What if one of these guys go down? Then we're definitely screwed.
Well, I mean, I guess that's really every position, because we don't really have a lot of depth anywhere on this team.
Yeah, we don't.
Except defensive line.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, right? Is it's like, so I think really your first, second, and third round picks this year are going to be like, they could all, rounds 1 and 2 are going to be starters. Round 3, depending on the way the board falls, which we'll have like a better idea after round 2 ends, just in terms of who they can get in round 3. But really like rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, those are all gonna be like guys that are gonna be depth pieces. You're gonna draft them to be like depth pieces, but then hope that they turn out to be like Darius Slayton. And I think like right now, what you need is like another Darius Slayton, not in terms of like the receiver, but just in terms of like hitting on those late round guys, because that's going to be some contributions that you're going to have for the next 4 years. Because whoever they draft from round 2 onwards is basically going to be on this team from 2020 until 2023.
I like the direction they're going. I like the future the Giants have. Like you mentioned it before, like, with Dallas, a shaky offensive line, Mr. Glass in Philly, and then Washington, just a disaster. I want to see the Giants like build this roster to keep building it, young, like the way they're going, build something that's going to last for a while. Because when we had our Super Bowls, it was like, all right, all of a sudden this year we dominated. Then we had to wait a few more years after Plaxico shot himself. Then all of a sudden, like, we won it that year. And then it's been like, it hasn't been that consistent with the Giants football and like since I've been a fan, and it's never been consistent. Like, teams always go to the playoffs like New England. I want to see that become the norm in New York.
Well, that takes a very good, detail-oriented culture and GM who is ahead of the curve. And that's the biggest question with Dave Gettleman. A lot of people think he's behind, and they think he's not progressive enough. And you need someone who's ahead of the game, like a Bill Belichick. I mean, obviously he built something there. He's super detail-oriented. He put in that culture, and he runs that team pretty much from the field to the front office. But he's always ahead of the game and knows what the opponent is thinking and everything like that. And then you look at teams like the Chiefs, who are also ahead of the game, and they make these decisions to build around a specific player. And I don't know, man. That's why I just always think it's going to be a shaky road with Gettleman. I don't know if he's really playing chess. I think he's playing checkers with the rest of the league, and then there's a few elite GMs that are playing chess. And I don't know, but this is going to be an important draft to really see that, because obviously now we have Joe Judge, and it looks like Dave Gettleman is pressing because he's only got 1 year left to prove it. So maybe he'll change a bit, and him and Joe Judge could put something together. Who knows, man? Maybe this will be the start of that dynasty that we were all praying for.
Well, listen, we got the youngest team in the NFL, so it's only upside for these guys. We don't got these old, overpriced veterans anymore.
Right.
So, we got to roll with them.
Yeah, part of it, dude, I think is like you just gotta. I mean, so you have your coaching staff, right? And they need to work hand in hand with the front office and the scouting department, and like the GMs, the contract guys, all that kind of stuff. Everyone needs to work hand in hand to put a winning product on the field. But like the front office, the contract guys, and the scouting department, I mean, their job is to get the coaching staff talent that's system fitting, and we really don't know like what this offense is going to look like. Right, on defense we have a feeling we know it's going to be a lot like the Patriots defense. On offense, so you could see it being like the Patriots defense, and then like mix in like some Cowboys some like Cowboys flavor in there, because we got Saquon back there. So who they take like with the first like 3 or 4 picks is really going to kind of tell us like what kind of offense are they trying to what kind of team are they trying to build in general. And I can say right now, dude, like judging by Joe Judge's comments back in January, I think it's going to be like a tough, hard-nosed, like grinded out type football team that you should expect to see in 2020.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of play action. They're going to run the ball a lot and a lot of play action with Jones. And I think they're going to thrive like in that system. Hopefully.
All right, so Mike suggested a great topic. That's enough draft talk. We'll be back the next 2 weeks with more draft talk, because that'll be our last 2 episodes before draft. Because we're all bored inside anyway, Mike suggested, he's like, which Giants players, current or former, right, would you want to be quarantined with, and why? I'll start with Mike, because this was his suggestion.
Yes. Like, we have to pick one current and one former. So I'm going to go with the current one now, because you guys know him. It's Barkley. All right? I named my dog after this guy. I want to be quarantined with him because I want to know how you get legs that size. I got to be able to work out with this fucking guy. Because my legs look like, I'm Diesel, nice size up top. I was about to say Diesel, but let's not get crazy. Like, I'm nice size, nice build, but my legs, man, they need work, man. Barkley got these quads, these calves. They just look. It doesn't look human, man. Like, so, like, if we got stuck and be on lockdown, like, we would probably just work out legs all day. So that'd be pretty cool hanging out with him. And then I could go another extreme for my guy that from back in the day retired would be Lawrence Taylor. Just because, say, the world is ending, like, we would just get hookers and do mounds of cocaine. And I've done cocaine before. And it would be amazing. Like, that, I'd be like, all right, this is the end of the world. We might as well go out with a bang. So those are my two guys. So if the world's going to still continue to happen, I'll go with Barkley. But if the world's ending, I got to go with LT.
Dude, see, okay, so I got into this argument on Twitter, like, before the season started. And some way, somehow, dude, the argument was like, who's better, Khalil Mack? So it's Khalil Mack or Aaron Donald. Naturally, I vouch for my guy, Khalil Mack, just because, like, he's like LeBron James. He makes, like, the entire team around him better. Whereas Aaron Donald was more of, like, a Kobe Bryant type guy. But, both are good at what they do, but Mack's better than Donald, in my opinion. You can disagree with me if you want to. But some way, somehow, some dude in this group chat was like, oh, yeah, like, Max or Donald's like the greatest defensive player of all time. And the moment he said that, I was like, bullshit, that's ridiculous, because like Lawrence Taylor's the greatest of all time. You have a whole generation of kids. Look, I never got to see Lawrence Taylor play. I saw highlights of him and you could see how dominant he was. I get you have an entire generation of kids, and great defensive players to them are like Julius Peppers and JJ Watt and these guys.
Nobody.
Dude, that's what I'm Bro, that's what I'm saying, right? Is like these guys like Donald and Watt are great for their time, but LT was always going to be on another level. LT, dude, at like 90 years old, could come back, right, and still be better than some of these dudes.
Amen.
Love that. Dude, I would start Lawrence Taylor right now in his age and condition on this Giants defense. I think he's probably an upgrade.
Dude, I would bring him in just to freaking go ahead and knock some sense into some of these clowns. Like, I would bring him in just for that.
God, I would love that, man. I would love LT back. After, like, 15 years of retirement. Come back, LT.
Yeah, so, Anthony, who are you avoiding and who you choosing to be quarantined with?
Quarantine. See, this is tough because my memory of Giants football doesn't go as far back as Mike's, but
I know you gotta say Eli. I know you gotta say
I wanna say Eli, but at the same time, like, what am I gonna do? He's gonna be hanging out with his three or four children, reading them bedtime stories, and I'm just gonna be like, "Hey Eli, you want to throw the ball around? Hey Dad, want to go play catch?"
I don't think even Eli likes to play video games. He probably just sits around the house and just like I don't know what he likes.
Yeah, he likes to golf, and I like to do that, but we can't go do that in quarantine. So I don't know what he's doing, and I don't know how I'd vibe with him. I'll say though, on the team right now, I thought about Sterling Shepard. Then I realized he has a baby, so I'm like, I don't want to have to hear baby talk or crying in the middle of the night. And then I thought about DeAndre Baker, and I think that's going to be my pick for the current. Because that dude, I don't know if you follow him on social media and stuff, he looks like he knows how to party. He looks like he's got a lot of cool friends, and they like to party. And what else is there to do but to party, like you said, Mike? And he lives in Miami, so it's close to me. We probably listen to similar music because, Kodak Black, Triple X, they're huge down here, Denzel Curry. So we probably listen to similar music. And he looks like fun, and he likes to spend money. I've noticed that too on his social media. So if he can, throw me a little bit of cash, I won't complain. So I'll hang out with DeAndre Baker for a little bit, and then
he's falling asleep during meetings.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that is why he's probably hungover.
Listen, if he plays better next year, like, I don't give a shit, man. Drink all you want, party all you want. Just guard.
Exactly. Yeah, just like LT back in the day, man. That guy used to party a lot, but he showed up. So as long as DeAndre Baker shows up, I don't care what he does. But yeah, I don't know, the former player. That's a tough one to pick, man, because I don't know. All of them are like they're old now, and I'm really young. So I think I'd pick Eli just because, I love him like a father, and maybe I can learn some things from him. But I don't know how much fun we'd have. So if you guys have any suggestions, I'm open to hearing them.
Dude, I would. Okay, so see, Anthony would hang out with Eli all day, and he would just like shadow Eli and be like, "Learn how to be a dad. Learn how to be a dad 101 is what Anthony would learn from Eli." Okay,
And
now,
my new daddy, Eli. You're my new daddy. It's like, get away from me, stranger.
dude, for me, I would say like current player I would want to hang out with would. This is tough, dude. But I would probably say Will Hernandez just because I love the mindset that he like brings to the table, dude. Because I think what was it? I think it was against the Eagles on Monday Night Football where someone like knocked Danny Dimes down, and Hernandez went and just like punched the crap out of him. Like you want your guys when your quarterback gets knocked down, and no one in the Giants fan base talks about this enough. So we're gonna mention it because everything we do. Everything we say on here ends up coming to fruition, by the way. The thing is you want your guys to be able, like, when your quarterback gets knocked down, you want them to get up and vouch for him, dude. You want them to be like, excuse me? Like, you're not going to mess with this dude. So I would pick Will Hernandez.
You're going to have to end up fighting Will Hernandez if you're quarantined together. You know that, right?
That's fine.
He likes to fight. So if he's locked in a room, yeah, you're eventually going to have to fight him, man.
Yeah. That's
hey, maybe he'll put you in a coma, and then you can just wake up when quarantine is over, and you're like, "Oh, that was fun."
I probably should have thought twice about picking Will Hernandez, but like seriously, he's the only guy on the line, dude, that sparked the nastiness the last like 2 seasons. And then the last, let's see, former player, dude, probably David Tyree, dude, and this one was kind of David Tyree or Michael Strahan. Now, I would lean Tyree over Strahan just because, like, you look at Super Bowl 42, if he does not make that helmet catch, I don't think the Giants go on to, like, win that game. And I would be like, hey, what was going through your mind before the catch? And then obviously just, like, after the catch. And then can you tell me, like, what happened during the catch? But obviously during the catch would be so much harder because, like, you would, it just, like, comes and goes in a flash,
Wow, that's a great pick, man. I didn't even think of Tyree. Oof.
Do you remember? You guys remember? Was it that Super Bowl, like that playoff run, right, where Tyree had been out like most of the season, I think, and then he came back and like the week before they put him in the game plan, and the Patriots like game plan for Plaxico, they didn't game plan for David Tyree.
Yeah, the dude stepped up, man. Shit, man. God bless that guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How do you have a helmet? Fucking football stuck to your helmet, man. That's the number one play in Super Bowl history, man. There's nothing else I could compare to that. That was like the game-winning drive on 3rd and 5. Like it was just ridiculous. I still can't believe it, man. I still can't believe that.
You know what's crazy? So I'll go back 1,000 times over, and I've probably the last like 13 years, dude, I've watched that play like 1,000 different times, and I still wonder not how did he come down with it, but how did you maintain control? Because like half a second earlier or later, and that ball, right, is like odds are the nose of the football is hitting the ground, because I think it was Rodney Harrison or Patrick Chung that was on him at the time.
Rodney Harrison, and the thing is, Rodney Harrison, he was like 1 interception away from a record. For like most interceptions by a single person in Super Bowl history, because he had played in a few prior and had a few more other picks going into the game. And I think they said he went for the ball instead of going for Tyree because he had that in the back of his mind. He wanted a pick rather than just breaking the pass up on 3rd down. So he went for the ball, and when you watch it, you could see he kind of puts the ball onto Tyree's head because he wanted the pick. And they say that if he didn't have that in his head that he wanted the interception, he probably just takes Tyree's legs out from underneath him and the ball flies out of his hands and hits the ground. But because he went for the pick, it ended up being a Tyree catch and the Giants win in the Super Bowl. So thank you for your subconscious Sigmund Freud slip right there, Rodney Harrison.
Wow, big words right there from Ed. Holy shit. I gotta go look that shit up.
Yeah, man. I'm pretty sure that's how the story goes.
Wow, that's the first time I heard that, man. That's fucking crazy. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't like I didn't know that either, right? But like that blows my mind just in the moment that we're in. because you're always taught go for the freaking ball, dude. The player's gonna be there, right? Regardless of it could have been like friggin' Calvin Johnson or whatever that was going up to make that play or catch that ball, right? You always go for the ball first, forget the freaking player. Like, you know. I don't know why Rodney would do that, but shout out to Rodney for that because then we got the what was that like the first Super Bowl they had since like the 80s or 90s or something?
Yeah, since '91, I think.
Yeah, dude, damn. And they're heading into the 20s now, the 2020s, dude. I think like if they draft correctly, Giants have a legitimate shot to be back in because you see like the foundation of this roster being laid. But like we said, it's still gonna take another year for them to like truly end up like seeing the roster that we want to see. And I think a lot of people are kind of cheating themselves right now because their expectations of the Giants going into 2020, they're so unrealistic.
I'm just looking forward to see what Joe Judge does with the roster. I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to put up with mediocre bullshit or a guy sleeping through meetings. Those kind of guys probably won't play. You know what I mean? And I think he's going to come in here, set the tone, and, get these young guys on his side immediately and, build something here, man.
Yeah, obviously, I know we've talked about Joe Judge's press conference like 1,000 times because it's all we've seen from him because, obviously it's the off season, but it just instilled so much confidence and hope into me. And I think that really is the way that all the fan base feels because we haven't had a guy stand and command of the respect at the podium since Tom Coughlin. We obviously had McAdoo, who people obviously laughed at. Pat Shurmur, people laughed at. I don't see anybody laughing at Joe Judge, man. I don't think he's going to let anything fly. And I'm really excited to see the culture that he brings. And he gives me hope for the future, man. Even if there's other portions of this team, and I don't want to be too negative, that don't give me hope. Joe Judge, Daniel Jones, they give me hope.
Yeah, me too, man. Remember McAdoo? I started laughing at him when he had one haircut, the shaggy haircut one year, and then all of a sudden he came into training camp with the hair slicked back, looking like Pat Riley when he's coaching the Knicks. I'm like, get the fuck out of here! Like you looking like an artist, man. What a disaster that was,
dude. McAdoo, I don't want to start about McAdoo. I will say this though, that was one of the freaking dumbest moves of the Jerry Reese era. Because one, it was towards the end of the Jerry Reese era. Number two, like you were trying to turn the Giants into something that you knew they just could not be. Because they've always been a defensive-led team, which is why like we've advocated so hard for Isaiah at 4th overall. But I'm not gonna be mad if they pick an offensive tackle. But like you need a defensive-minded guy. You need a tough skin guy, and like McAdoo didn't have that. And Shurmur, you could argue in some ways, was even worse than Ben McAdoo.
I don't know if he was worse than McAdoo. That would be tough. But McAdoo did make the playoffs, so I guess you could make that argument.
Yeah, but that was only because I will say this though, dude, is that McAdoo had like a more talented roster. Than
by far.
Like that's the reason why. And keep in mind, like the year they made the playoffs in 2016, Reese went on like his last big spending spree before the current one that we just saw.
Right.
You really hate Pat Shurmur to say that.
Yeah, I do, dude. I do.
See, there's nobody I hate that's been associated with the Giants more, and it's by a wide margin, than Ben McAdoo. And it really is just the awful memories that I have with the whole Eli Manning benching. I mean, that was such a devastating day for me because, it was 3 years ago at this point. I was 15, so I hadn't learned to be less emotional with sports, yet, because like now that I've been writing and stuff and I've gone through some things these past 3 years, I've learned to take the emotion out of it a little more. I still am emotional and passionate, but I was very emotional that day. Let me tell you, I was angry. I got sad. Like I've said so many times before on this podcast, I grew up with Eli. He's like a second father figure, role model to me. I'm always going to be grateful for him. So then when I saw the way that they treated him, the way that Ben McAdoo treated him, just this hatred fire, it grew really strong in me, man.
They started Geno Smith. I'm like, didn't you look like in him in a Jet uniform and watch him play for fucking 3 years?
It wouldn't have been as bad if it was Davis Webb starting, but the fact that he went so disrespectful and said Geno Smith should start the rest of the year, oh my God, the audacity of that man.
Yeah, I remember those comments by him, and I straight up was like, yo, Ben, like, someone needs to come around the corner and just kick you in the nuts every single day for the rest of your damn life. The fact that you went out and you said that. Like, Eli, right? We had terrible rosters, dude. Terrible teams. And Eli was like the lone bright spot that carried this team through, like, the worst of times, you know? And so for you to come up there and say that, like, was just so... I want to punch Ben McAdoo right now, dude.
For real. Fuck Ben McAdoo. If anybody takes something from this podcast, fuck Ben McAdoo.
Fuck Ben McAdoo. Yeah. Should be the title.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna title it, guys. So you know, we promised we'd keep this episode a bit shorter because I ordered pizza like an hour ago, and it's just sitting around because I had to rush home and like get on this podcast with these guys because I didn't want to keep them waiting. But we're gonna go ahead and yeah, my brother's texting me about something. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get out of here. We'll be back the next 2 weeks, obviously, with episodes, and then regardless of what happens with like sports and everything through May, June, July, August, September, October. We're going to be here forever, basically, right? Go ahead and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Usaid Coach. You'll follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo. Mike's on Twitter, too, at Mike Trainer MFT. You got to follow Mike for, you know, all the harsh criticisms he has of everyone, which a lot of the times are, like, totally warranted, in my opinion.
And my Ariana Grande impersonator.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
Check that out, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, she looks just like her.
I'm sure, guys.
And I'm marrying her, and she's gonna kill me in my sleep.
Oh my God. Yeah, be sure that you're following the podcast accounts on Twitter and Facebook at Giants Brawl. Tweet at us if you have a question. Slide into my DMs if you have a question or you want to comment on my comment about Ben McAdoo or me saying that Haskins was not as good as Trubisky, which is totally true, by the way. We're gonna get out of here though, guys, because I'm hungry and Anthony wants to jump back on his video games again. If you're watching this on YouTube, right, Mike's dressed the way he is because you know, he dresses like that while playing Madden.
I'm the coach.
Yeah, he's a coach trainer is what we're gonna call him from now on. Peace out, guys. We will see you next week then.